Describe a situation that required a number of things to be done at the same time. How did you handle it and what was the result?
The way that I handle certain situations when there's a variety of tasks that need to be completed in a short order is, first of all, to prioritize, to know exactly what is the most important thing to do first, and to get an idea of how much time you have in order to accomplish, and then those things that can be delegated to delegate them. For example, right now, I'm getting ready to go on a trip to go film a television show out in Hollywood. I didn't have much time to prepare for it, and so it was to, in a short amount of hours this morning, to look at what everything needed to be accomplished. The first thing I did was my morning meditation. Coffee, caffeine stimulates me and helps me think clearer. Then it was to exercise, to make sure my brain was in order, to get the release of the endorphins, the neurotransmitters, to allow me to complete tasks in a short order and to give me this abundance of energy. And so those were the first things I did, and then it was when I got back to look at what is the time frame and what's everything and what's the priority. The priority was to make sure I had my flights, so I delegated that to my assistant to get my seat assignment and to print out my boarding pass, and then I had her come into my bathroom while I was actually packing and preparing, and to delegate certain things to her. I always like to have duplicates, because when you don't have duplicates, and I'm referring to personal things, like I always like to have multiple hairsprays, multiple curling irons, multiple, whatever it is that's important to me, multiple shampoos and conditioners and body sprays or whatever I like, because it's such a waste of time to have to stop and go to a store or have someone do that. So whenever I purchase things for personal, I have duplicates. We also do that with the office. For example, we use brain scans when we are instructing and teaching people about the brain, about intervention, about crisis. When you have a family member that is acting out in behaviors or they've had changes, we like to illustrate by visual to show what a normal brain is. And then this would be an example of a brain that is affected by heroin or methadone. This is a 29, and that way they can see the difference and then get some understanding of why their loved one is acting out in behaviors. And that is for us too. When our brain is not healthy or our body's not healthy, we start acting out in ways that are not conducive to achieving our ultimate goals and dreams in our life. So it's to stay in check with what we do. So one thing we did was I delegated this actually to someone in the office, and he, instead of getting like a set, got I think 4 sets, because when we have, as the company is expanding, we want to make sure that this is part of the training when we go in and work with the family on the intervention process. So that's just an example of business duplication. So as you can see, I'm multitasking here right now, preparing to go on this trip. And whenever I leave, I am prepared to be out in the field for anywhere from a week to 10 days with a suitcase that I can carry on, because there are times when we're barely making it to the airport. So I'm jumping to LA to film a show actually tomorrow, and then there's a good chance that there's another show to follow that has not yet been booked. In my head, I kind of know and prepare for everything that could possibly happen. So I have to have in my suitcase all the tools that I need in order to do intervention and to be able to do my work. I'll show you my bag. It's a carry-on, but I have enough clothes in there and supplies that I can live anywhere from a week to 2 weeks without ever changing clothes. It's just efficiency, knowing what works for me. Then also, it is to look at, I'm going back to all the things that had to be accomplished in order to be able to make this flight. And I know that having the boarding pass saves time. They're not going to give my seat away. And how do I know that? Because it happened to me. I missed a flight because we got to the counter 1 minute late of an hour and they gave our seat away. That can't happen in my work because families are depending upon us. So with that being said, if I have my boarding pass, they're not going to give my seat away. So I can get to the airport 1 minute past the hour deadline and still make it. With that, back to my bag, I have enough professional change of clothes that I can do multiple television shows and not look like I'm wearing the same thing. The same thing with the casual environment as well as physical, to be able to work out, to be casual, and to be professional all in one small suitcase. So I delegated several things to my assistant. This morning, had her come in. She's somebody that just works with me and goes with the flow. If I ask her to pick up something, she'll do it, or go to the post office, and I can verbally. I'm not a person who writes things down. In my head, I know everything that needs to happen. And for me to write something down, it slows my process. So to get a lot of things done in a short order. And then here's something else I do, that I do everything with headphones, okay? Is the office phones, headphones, because it's hands-free, and that way you can do multiple things.
Oh, yeah.
These are great, inexpensive headsets. They work for anybody. This goes on our landline, and I also have one for my cell phone. So I believe in safety first, and so that way, if I'm taking a call, I can be on my computer researching information, but also be connected and think with the family. With my cell phone, that way I can drive or be in the vehicle, and it also, with the cell phone, it's protective and it's not going to cause damage to my brain. This is a protective mechanism, and it's also much more efficient. So with that, I'll be actually answering. I'll look at all my voicemails that have come in the last couple of hours while I have been, preparing to get on the road. And then I have someone drive me to the airport so that I can actually answer all of those phone messages and then be talking to the family in California and the producers for the second show. It's also to make copies of any requirements and check my email on my cell phone to see if there's anything else that the producers in order to come across as efficient. I also have an assistant that is going to go through all of my emails and all of our contacts, because when we do a Dr. Phil show or the doctor's TV show, we get a dramatic number of requests for help. So I have someone that can sift through all that and then bring to my attention the things that need my attention. So right now in my head, I've got, I'm ready to go film a Dr. Phil show. I've already prepared for the second show if need be. The third thing that just came to my attention this morning was that my nephew is actually getting deployed to Afghanistan, and he is in San Diego. And so if time permits and schedule permitting, I'm going to make it a point to go and see him, because family comes first above everything else. And if you lose family on the way to success, it's not worth it. So that's ways to prioritize and make things work for you. And when you've done everything you can and it's not working, then you just have to give it up to God. You have to just release it and know that He'll take care of you and work out all the details. So I'm going back to kind of the lists in my head of the things. So I'm prepared for the second show, have enough clothes to wear, to look appropriate, professional, on camera, also to feel good about the way I look. So that when you look in the mirror and you get the reflection back, it gives a boost of confidence. In addition, I'm prepared to go to Houston because we have an intervention that we have scheduled there. So I may need to change my flights and go from here, or from California, from here to California and California to Houston. Now the other thing to keep in mind is weather. I'm prepared to go from a cold climate to a hot climate. And so as we move forward with the process of accomplishing a lot of things, in summary, it is to know if you're a list maker or if you're not. To know and prioritize the events in order to get you where you need to go. and look at alternatives is how can I accomplish all the things I need to in short order, including this interview, and do a good job. Now, why, when I've got all of these things, these big things going on, why would I do an interview? Because if you don't give back, you will not receive. And I believe in giving back to community, to mentor other professionals, and if one thing that I do could impact somebody else's life, that's where I sleep really well at night. And I'm going to give you an example. Is our company is at a point where we've got more business than we can actually deliver. So we're having to train other interventionists and other people to do what we do. Growing pains are good as long as you don't let them get the best of you and let them control you. I was listening to my voicemails after spending a day with family yesterday, just disconnecting from the office, and got this amazing email from a family that I had given direction to just over the phone, wasn't paid for. Just a family called in crisis and said, we've got this situation, what do you recommend we do? And so I got a follow-up voicemail from him last night saying, I just want you to know, Debbie, how you changed our lives. We took your advice, we put our son in treatment where you recommended. He's sober for 6 months, and we have had the best 6 months of our life. Now, what a gift that was. I could barely remember giving that advice to this young man, but if I went back through my notes, because I have to document my work, because I'm a licensed professional both as a chemical dependency counselor and as a registered nurse. So documenting and keeping record is really important. But that was the last thing when I went to sleep last night, was getting that wonderful feedback from that family. And so my hope is to be able to squeeze in a phone call to him today, just thanking him for taking the time to letting me know how that impacted his life. So those are just a couple things that I do, okay?